This would be whether you're in India or outside. I think if you're in an early stage startup, things are not going to be as structured. You need to pick up a lot of ad hoc things. You need to be open to flexibility, right? You don't have a structured product. Um, you need to be open to experimenting a lot, right? So that is early stage versus late stage. Late stage it's a lot more um, structured in the sense like every decision you make can have repercussions on 5 6 other product lines. It can have business impacts, etc. So you need to think second degree as well. And I'm not of the school of, hey, you should be hustling all the time, or hey, hustling is bad, right? That is a choice you need to make, what you want to do and at what stage of life you're at. But at the same time, I think the culture matters, right? You go with this hustle culture there and try pushing things there, it's not going to work because people are used to a certain way of life. Gut that people talk about, along with data, you need some amount of gut. This gut is based on some amount of your experiences, right? Something telling you, okay, hey, this might work. That is based on some intuition which comes from, hey, if I've had multiple such experiences, there's some voice telling, okay, dude, this didn't go right there, let's try this, or this went really well, let's double down on this. So I think that is where I think experience plays a massive role.
यार ये फूड डिलीवरी ऐप से ना खाना मंगा मंगा के मेरा हेल्थ और मेरे पैसे दोनों जा रहे हैं। पता नहीं ये फूड डिलीवरी ऐप से खाना मंगाना इतना आसान क्यों है? इसे आसान बनाता कौन है? अब आप कहेंगे डिजाइनर्स, इंजीनियर्स एंड मेनी मोर। लेकिन इन सबको तो साथ में काम करके एक अच्छा प्रोडक्ट बनाना होगा। ये तो आइसोलेशन में काम नहीं करेंगे। And to make sure that everything in an app is seamlessly integrated enters a product manager. A product manager ensures that all the teams work in tandem to create a product that is very seamless and very user friendly. And that's why our weight and our money both go. Well, to give you more insights into product management today, we have the one and only Suhas Motwani, who is the co-founder of one of the biggest product communities in the world, the Product Folks. Product Folks is a community of over 1 lakh product managers and has a reach of over 10 million people. It essentially connects aspiring product managers or product managers to their peers, and it also gives you a great insight into the companies that are hiring so that you can apply in case you're aspiring or in case you're looking for a switch. So Product Folks has honestly helped a lot of people, and hopefully you can gain some insights from this session. Over to Suhas and just enjoy the session. Hi Suhas, welcome to the second episode of the Growth Show. How are you feeling today? How are you doing?
Hey Richa, thanks so much for hosting. Honestly, hectic day, but I'm super excited about this episode. Always love chatting with people around product, around community. So pretty excited about this.
So, my first question to you, Suhas, is a few years back, product management was not something of a mainstream career. But over time, I think it has become a very cool career to be in. So, why do you think it has become so important right now? And why are product managers called the mini CEOs of the company?
Oh wow! So you've brought in the myth on the first question itself. But I agree with you, right? On a serious note, I think 3 years back when we started the Product Folks community as well, product management in general was also pretty nascent, right? Although there have been, people who've been in product for the longest time, right? You'd see, leaders today, 6, 8, 10 years, people who moved back from the valley, building in India now. So it has been prevalent across the globe, I think at least for a decade and a half, 2 decades, right? Maybe even more. In India, I think today everyone wants to be a product manager, right? So I think that is the difference. What shifted, I think, general, you'd see a lot of consumer growth, number one, right? Lots and lots of people building some cool apps, solving some very interesting problems, and you need someone to think through, right? Along with engineers, along with designers, along with your marketing folks, you need someone to think through the customer problems and how can we manage to solve this in the most efficient way, right? And that's the rise of why you see so many product managers. Just in general, it's a correlation with the number of startups that have come through, the number of interesting products coming in from India, right? Number one, that is definitely something that has pushed people into it. Second, from what I've noticed, this is both from the demand side and supply, right? From the candidate side, people who want to get into product, plus demand, I mean, from the company side, right? So today, many other roles which were earlier program management, which were earlier project management, which were other roles, right? Generalist roles are being tagged today as product management. Nothing wrong. Everyone wants to attract the best talent, and if the talent wants a product manager tag, then so be it. But it can lead to some amount of saturation very, very soon in the market, right? So that is from the demand side. From the other end, many people feel, okay, hey, product management is something that, hey, if I don't need to maybe go very technical, and I don't need to code. So maybe if I'm not too keen on just doing very, very technical stuff, maybe this brings that management flavor. Or people, and okay, yeah, I mean, I'm being maybe a little more pragmatic about this, or I'm being a little more rational about it. But on the other end of the spectrum, I also know product managers salaries are really high. So that, I feel, is another reason which attracts a lot of people into it. I think these are different factors, some from the very, very positive side of things, some which are questionable, debatable, because it becomes a root shock, exactly like you mentioned, right? Our product manager, the mini CEOs of the project, of a product. Two schools of thought, right? There is no right or wrong. I think I'm not going to create a controversy or a debate on the first question of the thought. But actually, I think many people are in for a root shock for sure, right? Many product manager roles, at least from 0 to 5 years, are IC roles, right? So the manager tag in product management is kind of misleading. You're not really managing a team of, say, 5, 10 people. You're essentially going to be yourself. Yes, you'll be collaborating, right? So the manager tag is here. Hey, how do I do stakeholder management? How do I work with different teams to ensure that the problem that I'm trying to solve, the solution that I'm bringing to the table, the product I'm trying to launch, really goes and hits that chord, right? So that is where the manager tag comes in. Not so much from, hey, okay, I'll have my team, I can manage, I don't know. It's a lot of hard work, right? Honestly, I think product managers aren't given enough credit for the amount of shit they take. So I think, yeah, I think that's how I'd like to position this. I think it's a very, very interesting role, very lucrative, but get to know more about it before you jump in. Don't jump in because everyone's getting into product management, because it is hot today, because it is highly paid. These are factors for sure, right? All of it amalgamates. Everyone is here to build their careers in the best possible way. So it's a very, very interesting career choice, but again, it's not for everyone, right? So don't get into it just by the FOMO that you see on Twitter. Go through it. Now there's tons and tons of resources out there. Go through it, take your time. You'll enjoy it, right? If you are very, very interested in building products, you'll enjoy the role, but get to know about it a little better rather than just the surface level form.
Okay, so Suhas, I think that was a great answer, and I think it's a perfect segue for my next question to you. So, as you mentioned, product is an amalgamation of various elements like there's coding, there's design, and there's a lot more like marketing, etc., involved. So, how does a product manager interact with all these teams, and how important is leadership in this role? I think you mentioned it in the previous question, but can you go in more detail?
For sure. I think I have a pinned tweet on this, and one of those in the threads is a T-shaped skill that I'd love to call it, right? So a product manager definitely needs to pick up multiple of these skills, but always try going in depth into one or two of these, right? So think of it as nowadays there are a bunch of folks right in college who want to do product strategy, right? And I'll have to start from there, because I feel like, hey, you need to pick up some hard skill before getting. Yes, you can directly get into probably an APM role, but if you probably work a year or two in core, say, software development or data analysis, business analysis is a great segue into getting into product management. Or maybe you come from the design background, I feel that person has an edge, right? That's just the way my point of view is at. Reason being, I think your conversations then go deeper, right? You ask me, hey, how do you manage to do the stakeholder management? How do you talk to different teams? You need to learn their language to talk to them, right? Imagine if you aren't able to go in depth to them, if you aren't able to problem solve with them, you are going to have a challenge, right? Imagine if you're engineers, if you need to ship something out in a month, right? If your engineers say, hey, it's going to take 4 months, right? You need to understand why it's going to take 4 months, or else people can take you for a ride. I'm not saying it will happen, but it is possible, right? So for that reason, go a little deeper into each of these skills. Yes, you cannot master all these skills, and don't overwhelm yourself by that, right? Uh, Experiment with a bunch of them, see what you're interested in, right? You might be super interested in, say, going deeper on the data side or the design side. So pick up that one skill where you can go deeper into, and of course, with time, you will also pick up different skills. Some core skills, like you mentioned, managerial, comes over time. I think this is something you will end up leading as you go up the PM career. You will be managing a bunch of PM, but initially just ensure that, hey, can you work in tandem with a bunch of them, right? Your most important skill is, hey, how do I build a relationship with my engineers? How do I build a relationship with my superiors? And to push my point out there, how do I build a relationship with my designers, marketing folks? I think relationship management is equally important. Clarity of thought, right? Imagine the documents that you make, right? You might be building a PRD, you might be writing a product memo. Can you put that across in a very, very seamless fashion? Because they're going to understand it. That will save you the back and forth. I think these are two, three general soft skills that you can start picking up, along with one or two hard skills wherever you're interested.
All right. So this is a very interesting question, and I think fair bit of analysis on my end has also been done on this. So we see that a lot of folks from, say, tier one colleges, say IITs, NITs, BITS, etc., they have a much easier path set out for them because they're usually hired in, say, an APM role, and they progress in their career and go on to become a PM. But whereas people who come in from other colleges, like you and I, like even you haven't come in from, say, an IIT or an IIM. Maybe it's difficult, maybe it's not. So we want you to be the mythbuster here and let us know how true this is. And, how does one who's, say, not from there say this is true? How does someone who's not from these colleges get that edge and get into a product role?
Fair question. I think I get this on a very, very regular basis. So I have like a kind of rational answer to this. I've thought through, I've brainstormed with a bunch of folks. First up, I think everyone who has gotten into a tier one college has worked really hard to get there, right? So if you think you worked equally hard and haven't gotten into a tier one, then don't worry, because you will be able to apply that hard work into another path, right? It'll just maybe take a little longer, but acknowledge the fact that, hey, they've worked hard for 5 years of their career, gone studied really hard, gotten into, and it's rigorous there as well. So just acknowledge that as a fact. So you come to peace with it, right? Maybe they worked harder than you, maybe they've not. Let's not debate that, but give that an acknowledgement that, okay, hey, and there are some leading factors of that, like you mentioned, right? Once you get there, you get a brand name. Second, you get a really, really interesting alumni base, right? So you can reach out to your seniors, your peers. For example, such is the industry that there might be a GPM product leader who's already from your college, right? And usually that's the case. That's how the industry has formed. Today it's changing, of course, but that's how the industry is today. So of course, if you graduate from a tier one college and there is a senior person there, the connect is automatic, right? So you are up against these odds, right? So now we have that as an acknowledgement that is set. Now, what can you do about it, right? Second, today times have changed, right? You need to start from your starting point, figure out, hey, what is my best odds here, right? Two, three different ways you can do it. Go to LinkedIn, select. This is a interesting framework that's worked for me. Go to LinkedIn, select the company you want to get into. Shortlist 5, 10 company one by one, right? It's going to take you max 15, 20 minutes. Select that company, select product manager in the description, go to people tab, right? You'll see 10, 15 people who come up, right? Select the location you're at. So you'll see that, local minima that you're at. Now here you see what is their background. So you'll be able to figure out a pattern, right? I don't want to name companies, I don't want to name colleges, but I'm guaranteeing you'll be able to figure out which are the ones which come from the tier one pedigree background, which are the ones that don't. Where is somewhere you're seeing a shift, right? So in your 10 dream companies that you want to get into, see how you want to play the odds. It's as simple as that. I'm going very, very pragmatically, as simple as that. Now, if you want to play the harder game, now if you want to challenge yourself, you're like, okay, dude, in this company, there are lots of people from IITM. I want to challenge myself. I want to try getting into, right? Now, there, what you need to do, figure out 2, 3 people. That ratio you're going to find. There will still be some outliers, right? But acknowledge the fact that you're playing the outlier game, right? Then don't come crib on Twitter and LinkedIn. So that is the choice you made. Play that game, right? And in that, try conversing with those 2, 3 people. See their journey. Ask them, hey, how did you break into this, right? Secondly, in that 10 companies, you'll find 2, 3 companies, 4, 5 companies where they aren't. Today, that has changed, right? Especially if you're looking for an APM PM role. If you aren't from a tier one background, also, you'll still find great, great companies where there have been people who've broken in without, right? See where that pattern is a little better for you. Make the game easier for you, right? Why do you want to? In life, I mean, I think product management is also a stepping stone function, right? Now, if you're very adamant, hey, I want to get into the Googles, Ubers, Fangs of the world, right? At that point of time, see their background, right? You'll see most of them are from tier one. Why don't then, and you want to play that, then go do a B school degree, right? If that is the case, why are you making life harder for yourself, right? So that is how I look at it. See, pragmatically, you can't change the system, right? Yes, of course, there are different ways. If you're in an early stage startup, cold emailing the founder works, building your portfolio works, showcasing your work on Twitter and LinkedIn works, participate in a lot of these open tear down challenges that happen. I've seen so many people transition, at least in that 0 to 3 journey. I think this is great. There are lots and lots of ways to bifurcate that, right? Early stage startup, mid stage, late stage. Late stage, there's a process set, right? Today, I see so many kids applying to Google APM program in London and US and asking, "Hey, will Indians get a shortlist here? Hey, don't have a visa. It's gonna be super challenging. You're playing against the odds, right?" And then they go, "Okay, no, US visa is such a limiting factor." It is, right? But work your way upwards, right? If you really want to do that, figure out. There are one or two people. US is pretty hard, but there are people who've cracked London. Figure out, talk to them, and get there. But do your research, right? Without that, I feel, and there's so much available already online. Today, the first page of Google, if you type "how do I break into product man," there are 100 articles, 100 videos on YouTube. There's so many of these online courses, right? So there is no dearth of ways to break in. But if you reach out to LinkedIn, or if you go onto LinkedIn and say, "Hey, this is my profile. I want to work as a product manager in your company. Can you refer me?" Right? I think we're beyond that. 3 years back, if you did that, okay, someone would consider. Today, there's no reason for you to reach out to someone. "Hey, how do I break into product management?" The first page of Google gives you this. Right? So that is my pragmatic. But go data wise, do your research. Um, yes, they have an edge, right? I'll go out on a limb and say yes, they have an edge, but also acknowledge the fact that they've worked hard. So that's how, I mean, like, look at it very pragmatically. There are lots and lots of folks in today's time, right? I'm not talking about 5 years ago. I'm talking about today, who have broken without tier one degree into great, great companies. There are remote offers that are open today, post which 4, 5 years into your career, product consulting is one thing that opens up, very lucrative. Um, 4, 5 years later, you'll realize that, hey, I don't even like product management. Now I want to move. Maybe I want to become a founder. Maybe I want to become a GM. So there are lots of different roles, and this is evolving every 2, 3 years, right? So just I think, do your research. There's enough opportunities available for non IIT IM folks. So yeah, I mean, there is just enough there. Just do your research. There are enough opportunities as well for non IIT. So don't take that as a limiting factor.
So, what about you? Like, how did you crack that code?
So mine was a cold email approach back then. Um, Honestly, I'll tell you very honestly, I had no idea what product management was about. Right? Today, I think college kids are so smart.
I
In
swear.
third, yeah, right. The kind of decks they are putting out. I think in even 5 years into my career, I think I sometimes feel, oh wow, dude, this is super talented, right? I wish I could do that even now. Forget back then. Even now, I feel like, okay, dude, I need to, keep up. So that way, I think that on the positive side, but on the negative side, your competition has also increased, right? You can no longer just cold email, and that you need to come with a certain base. So there are pros and cons, right? Of course, there are lots more opportunities, but like your peers are very smart, right? Back then, I think I started off with a cold opportunity. One of my teammates where I was working, I started into business intelligence. I was into consulting before product management. One of my teammates, in fact, he's like, "Dude, I'm quitting. I've joined somewhere as a product manager." That's the first time I realized, okay, there's something as product manager. Call it my naivety. Staying in Bangalore, I had no idea about this, but that's when I was, okay, this is interesting, right? Then I asked him. So that was my starting point. I asked him, and then I was, okay, this is a nice role. This is something I would love to get into as well, right? At least explore. And that's when I think he introduced me to a couple of these consulting. He had a bunch of these resources, so I started studying from there. Then started researching online. Okay, then there is that time also. I think there was a couple of things available, so that's where my journey started. Um, I came across a LinkedIn post, and disown LinkedIn as much as you want, but I found two great opportunities via LinkedIn. So first one is there, like I knew someone who was starting up, reached out to them saying that, hey, I'm currently working as a consultant, but on the side I love to contribute. That's it, right? I wasn't talking about a job opportunity or hire me or none of that. I just want to help you out, right? And even that person was, okay, I'm starting off. This was like years ago, right? So yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself. Why don't we hop on a 15-minute call? So that 15-minute call was interesting. I told him very transparently, this is where I'm at. I'm okay to contribute for 3 months. You see how it goes. We both see how it goes. and if you like it, then we can figure out something. So it wasn't anything about a job option. In fact, it was pro bono on the side with my job, and that's how things really clicked off. That's when I got into my first product role. A year later, I got an offer from PepsiCo to go do product and growth outside India. Right, I wasn't looking out for a role, but I was like, why not do it? Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. Why not, right? So I think with that why not mindset, I was okay. Let's just experiment, right? And I told my founder as well that I might go out for a year or two. I want to like just go explore and come. If I don't enjoy it, I'll come back here, right? I'll work with you. There was a little bit back and forth, but then I think he agreed, right? I think I had also made up my mind. I wanted to travel, right? It wasn't so much about the job, but I wanted to cover all the countries. Unfortunately, pandemic hit, so couldn't complete all the countries, but that allowed me, right? I think it really opened up a lot of doors for me in terms of professional growth, in terms of getting some time on the side to travel. Plus, I think the community grew because of that, right? I think product folks when we started was very tiny, even 3 years ago, but pandemic fueled. Plus, like you mentioned, everyone wanted to become a product manager. It became like a go-to place. So I think I enjoyed that stint, right? So these were two opportunities, and again, both via LinkedIn. So don't diss on the platform; it just worked for me. Although maybe today it's become very different. I don't think I consume it as much, but it's a great. It's still the number one platform that gives you a good amount of opportunities if you use it the right way. So for me, yeah, that's been the journey. A little accidental for sure, but today I realize that lots and lots of people who are very actively trying to pursue it, right? So I think times have changed, and for people who are looking to get into today, I don't think something like this will work, right? The same people who I would have reached out are, they are bombarded with people who want to get in, so now you need to try different things.
All right. So we talked about product management in, like we want to draw some differences between how product management is in India versus abroad. And are there certain differences? And if there are, what are those?
There are lots of differences, to be honest. Um, But more than geography, I'll highlight the geographical changes, demographic changes as well. But one thing is also depend on the stage. So in Europe, I mostly worked with a very late stage. It's a Fortune 500 company. Back in India, I was working right on the other end of the spectrum, right? Very early stage VC back company. So I think that played a lot of factor in the way I look at it as well. This would be whether you're in India or outside. I think if you're in an early stage startup, things are not going to be as structured. You need to pick up a lot of ad hoc things. You need to be open to flexibility, right? You don't have a structured product. Um, you need to be open to experimenting a lot, right? So that is early stage versus late stage. Late stage, it's a lot more um, structured in the sense like every decision you make can have repercussions on 5 6 other product lines. It can have business impacts, etc. So you need to think second degree as well, and things take time, right? You
Mm.
cannot expect in a startup on a weekend you can probably put out a landing page. There it goes through multiple levels of approval. So I think just the way of working across early stage, late stage is different. Now across geographies, right? I just wanted to put that as context because anything I say will be based on this as my experience. Second, I think is the culture of working, right? That is what I'd say where the real difference in geography comes through. In India, I feel we have this one chalta hai attitude, plus everyone is hustling, right? So I think there I don't see as much of that. There are pros and cons of both, right? Especially in early stage, you need this kind of an attitude to just make things happen. Yes, of course, this kind of attitude exists there as well, but it's a lot more thought through. I felt in terms of no one will disturb you on a weekend. No one will disturb you outside of office hours. Uh, I don't take this as a positive or negative. I'm just putting that out as a fact, right? Then again, is it their culture? Is it just the way we as Indians are here? Maybe we're also a developing nation, so this is something that we really need, right? And I'm not of the school of hey, you should be hustling all the time, or hey, hustling is bad, right? That is a choice you need to make, what you want to do and at what stage of life you're at. But at the same time, I think the culture matters, right? You go with this hustle culture there and try pushing things there, it's not going to work because people are used to a certain way of life. At the same time, if you enjoy, okay, hey, I really, if you're a workaholic, right, if you really want to do things and suddenly you go there and things are a little more relaxed, you're like, okay, am I in the right place for the right stage of
Right.
life? So that cultural shift is something that is more important that I see across both geographies. Um, of course, if you want to work in startups, India is growing super fast, right? Lots of opportunities here. Um, so take a choice, right? Think about the different factors. I think I worked in Europe, where I went there for the beautiful geography, and of course, getting an opportunity to work with PepsiCo was, like amazing for me. So that experience is something that I feel like a lot of people should go for. You need to ensure that, okay, hey, you're okay with a lot of other things, right? Because there might be upsides here that you're leaving and going there. There are certain upsides that you will not get here. So weigh your options across both these things. But main difference that I'd say is cultural more than anything else, right? Everything else you see is neck to neck. If you're okay, if you want to go and do what I did, definitely follow that path. But that said, I think India has some fantastic opportunities. Don't fall for the Instagram worthy stories, or the Twitter FOMO of everyone moving. There are fantastic opportunities that are opening up here.
Yeah, like you mentioned, outliers. I think we focus on the outliers and build a dream career for ourselves most often than not. So, yeah, awesome. All right. So, following up to that question, what is the salary range usually for a product manager in India versus the US specifically for freshers and experienced folks both?
US is definitely a lot higher, just by like just by absolute number. But if you're in California, taxes add up. Um, I'd say your PPP, right? Your purchasing power is also not as high. So I'd say from a purchasing power point of view, if you're working in a top tier startup in India, um, rule of thumb, I think general salaries. We did a recent survey for an APM, and I'll just give you like a range of salaries. For an APM, it starts off from 12 to 24, right? Anywhere between that range. Yes, there will be 10-20% difference on the you'll still see some roles out there for 8 to 10 lakhs. You'll still see some roles that go up to 25 lakhs even for early stage folks. From there on, I think it depends on the number of years of experience. Keeps adding up by a multiple, right? So imagine if you've been there for 4-5 years, you might be earning anywhere between 40 lakhs, 50 lakhs. Post which, I think a little more, right? 6-7 years is where this becomes the median. Post which, I think again, your stock component increases, right? As you go up the career ladder, I think that adds up as well. So your CTC increases there. Early on in your career, I feel there are some differences on the degree that you had. We discussed IIT, IIM, ISPs, right? If you do have an MBA degree versus not, I've seen there is a difference in salaries, right? I just wanted to highlight that for folks who are considering it. Yes, there is definitely a bump up in salaries post an MBA degree versus pre MBA degree. Now compare this versus the US. I think in the Bay Area, lots of these salaries start off upwards of 120, 130K. This becomes like your base. Post which 3-4 years into your career, you will be somewhere around the range of 250 and upwards, right? Now this depends on, hey, whether you're working for, again, very much like India, early stage startup. Things change versus on the later stage. Don't get into an early stage startup and expect like very huge fat paychecks. I think this is the same here and outside of India. But one thing, again, there the taxes are higher. Also, your costs are higher, right? So you need to think through these factors. For an experience, nothing like it. Um, US salaries are higher than Europe for sure. So I'd say Europe somewhere comparable to top tier India, but US is a little higher in terms. So just like a very high overview of things. I think there's payscale.com, there's Glassdoor, which gives you maybe the direct numbers. Also, I think we've just released a product salary report. So if you want to link it in the description, happy to share that.
Yes. Awesome. I think that'd be great. We could definitely do that. So just, beyond that, I think there's a notion that product managers are generally paid more as compared to a lot of these other roles. So is it true? And if yes, then why?
Not compared to software developers. I think software developers have to pay a lot. Also, finding really good designers is hard. So I know designers are paid really well too. Now, how I look at that is it's a function of demand versus supply. In today's world, there is tons of people entering on the early stage. You find lots and lots of good APMs coming in. So I feel like that APM salary isn't going to um, go a lot higher, right? So your early stage salaries might stagnate at where it is today, just pure demand and supply. There's tons of people who want to get in, right? So if you want like a 30 lakh package when you're starting up, it might not happen anymore. There was a time where the 20 to 30 range was in, but I think it is now slowly consolidating. But at the same time, later stage opportunities are still hot. So if you've been working with some interesting companies building very very interesting products, I think you're still in the demand um, for today. Tomorrow, if the demand and supply becomes a little more normal, right, you'll see a lot more people from early stage getting into mid stage careers. There again, the market has lots and lots of good folks work with great startups. That's where I think maybe then the supply consolidates. So, right, this happened across a lot of other fields. Same happened in tech in 2021, right? In software development, now everyone wanted the best coder. Today, I think maybe because of a slight slowdown, there is still availability, some availability in the market. Um, I don't think it's going to hit product and software and design. If you're good, it's not going to hit this market as much. Um, it is pure demand and supply. In today's market, good product managers are hard to find, hence the salaries. Tomorrow, if you see the market has great product managers, maybe there are people from the valley move back. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, right? Of course, they will need to be compensated, so they're not going to like earn less. But then you're up, right? You're up for competition. Imagine if people from a Facebook or a Twitter want to move back home, right? Uh, you are going to see lots of, because they learn lots of different things, right? We've seen some very at least in the 15s and the 16s, maybe about 7 8 years back, there are people who moved back from the valley and shaped up some part of the Indian ecosystem, right? From B2B to B2C. In fact, today Zomato's food delivery CEO, right, he was an ex Twitter product exec, right? He moved back and shaped that. Lots of examples. So who knows if that happens, right? The reverse brain drain. Or in today's ecosystem, I see lots of mid-stage folks working with companies like your Creds of the world, right? Very, very interesting startup. They've got tremendous amount of experience in the last 2 3 years. They've seen scale. There are people who work with, the Hotstars of the world, the Unacademies of the world, the Zomatos, the Swiggies of the world. They've seen scale. They've built very interesting product, worked there for, half a decade. Now these are people who can go out there and build good products, right? Because they have the experience. They've worked with very senior leaders who come.
The credibility is there with them.
Correct, right? Credibility and experience. I think both of them go hand in hand.
Definitely.
Credibility takes time to build. Experience takes time to build. So that is something you cannot replace, right? Even if you're a fresh MBA grad from Harvard, right? It's great. Maybe you've learned to, like, practical experience is something that I think plays a very very important role. You have your smarts, right? If you are an ISB grad, your IIT, IIM grad, you have the smarts, but there is something that experience teaches you which is not replaceable. So that's where I think the difference in salaries come through. Um, Maybe one thing that I think maybe 3 years from now we might start getting into specializations. Right? Today we are at a general product manager role. You might see someone specifically going down the t-shirt, because in today's world I see everyone looking to get into product. 3 years later the market is going to be flooded, right? It happened with data, if I'm not wrong, right? 3 years, 2017, 18, AI, ML, like, was the hot thing, right? Everyone was in AI engineer. Today no one's.
Everyone wanted to be a data scientist.
Exactly, data scientist, right? So something like that is something that is a risk to the industry. But I think we're far. We still need good product managers. So I don't see, like, if you really want to get into product today, it's still a great time.
All right. Okay. So, Suhas, I think going ahead, you talked about how important experience is. Now, there are people who want to transition into, say, a product manager's role, and they take a degree for it. So, you did highlight how important experience is. Can you go into more detail, maybe some anecdotes as well, where, say, experience, outweighs a degree, or degree outweighs experience? So, if we can, throw some more light on that.
There are tons of examples. Anecdotally, I worked across the CPG domain where my director has been at PepsiCo for over 2 decades. My manager has been there for a decade and a half, right? The kind of insights and nuances they have of the industry is unparalleled. Like, if I studied at the best and I did tons of case studies, the practical learning that they have, okay, hey, XYZ happened, a couple of years back, the decision making changes, right? Because okay, and there are pattern matching. I think what experience also brings to you is some amount of pattern matching. Yes, in your degree you can pick up some of these from the outside, but when you have been in that situation or in a tangential situation in the past, right, everyone will like pick up different kinds of experiences. The pattern matching you can do in the retro, right? They always say that you can join the dots while looking backwards. right? When you can do this very, very powerfully is where you can make better decisions, right? So one is, yes, that gut that people talk about. Along with data, you need some amount of gut. This gut is based on some amount of your experiences, right? Something telling you, okay, hey, this might work. That is based on some intuition which comes from, hey, if I've had multiple such experiences, there's some voice telling you, okay, dude, this didn't go right there, let's try this, or this went really well, let's double down on this. So I think that is where I think experience plays a massive role. Where I think degrees play a role is when you want a foot in the door, right? The foot in the door is something a degree cracks. There are so many doors which aren't available if you don't have a top tier MBA degree. This is still true. This is still true, right? How many ever cold emails you write, right? Can you get into an MBB? Very simple question, right? They have certain way of functioning. They know there's a certain playbook that works for them. They are following that. Now you might like put hoardings yourself and like try doing something very, very different. It still might not work out, right? So that door is something I think degrees are great for. Now, can you work your way upward, right? Sometimes be like, hey, maybe I don't want to spend 40 lakhs on an ISB degree. Maybe, right? Maybe I don't want to do that. I don't mind spending 3-4 years more going down the step function, right? So I might hustle my way out with an early stage startup, take that experience, go to a mid stage. From there, now that I have 3-4 years of experience, now I try getting into a fan. With someone with a top tier MBA degree, might be able to accelerate their path. But somewhere it will converge if you have the raw smarts, if you have some amount of hustle and you're willing. So that is the trade-off you need to make, right? One person will be like, no, I want to accelerate my career, right? I want to get there to the C-suite faster. Maybe, right? Another guy will be like, no, maybe I'll work 3-4 years, 3-4 different startups. I'll work in two startups, 2 2 years, or one startup 4 years, right from the scratch. I want to see that journey, and maybe 5 years later, I want to start my own startup. So that's where I think, don't think of degree so much that okay, hey, my career will be set, right? That mindset, don't go with that mindset. But of course, if you look at it as a way to open doors, nothing like it, right? Why not, right? If you have the means to do it, if you have the smarts to do it, and in a 1 year degree, if it can open up doors for you, why not? And that degree will stay with you for lifetime, right? Till the next 10 years, recruiters will continue reaching out to you on LinkedIn. You're making your life easier, right? Not everyone wants to sit on Twitter and cold email founders, etc., right? Maybe this 1 year of your hustle, 2 years of your hustle, this is also a hustle. It's not easy to, right, stay in a top tier, like compete with the smartest folks on the platform today, right? You're competing with them. That you're putting in 2 years of hard work, but then maybe life gets a little easier because then the opportunities become easier. 5 years, 10 years from now, things might change, but today this is still the reality, right? How much ever your Twitter influencers are going to tell you that hey, just write this thread and 10 people reach out to you. No, right? Your life is not going to be set by Twitter threads. It's not going to be like set by just writing a LinkedIn post every day. Yes, that is an additional thing, but that is far different from the kind of opportunity. If you can get into an MBB by writing a Twitter thread or doing anything, please tell me. I will take back all my words. I will send 10 people to your next course. But there are some doors that don't open without degrees. So that's a very truthful thing. Yes, consider the facts, right? Just be very realistic. That's all I want to say. People like somehow just miss these things. It's not something revolutionary I'm saying. I'm just telling you things that you probably already know. It's just something a lot of people miss. So look at it very, very data backed. Uh, make rational
Spoken like a
decisions.
true
Right?
product manager right now, Suhas.
Yeah, very
Back
much.
it up with data.
I think I think that the roles just gotten into me.
Yes, it has, definitely has. Awesome. But to each their own, it depends on how you want to shape yourself, how you see yourself taking the path. And I think you have reiterated what I think it's there in everyone's mind, but they want someone to reiterate it, and you've done that. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Everyone just needs one person from outside telling them, okay, hey,
ha,
you're right, or
correct.
yeah, you don't want to take the decision. You want someone else to tell you, okay, hey, you know the answer, but you just want someone else to take that
Sort of
shot for you.
validate that, no? Like, yeah, I was in the
Exactly.
right one, but now that you have said it, I think, yeah, you're right.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Perfect. Okay. So, next question. I think this is also, I think you would get asked a lot. So, a lot of people believe that, and I think we're playing Mythbusters now. So, a lot of people believe that, when you are a product manager, you need a lot of tech background. So, how true is that? And if not, then how easy or difficult is the transition?
In India, I feel if you do have a tech background, it helps you from a lot of roles. Not impossible to get in, but again, same pattern matching which I told you earlier, right? Go by that. Um, it's not impossible. So there are ways that I'll probably highlight. Okay, if you do not come from a tech background, what can you do? But if you are from the tech background, for the most natural reason that hey, conversing or understanding products or understanding the tech behind products is equally important. Some are of the school of thought that okay, hey, product managers don't need tech at all. um, that are not the kind of roles that you find in India yet. Right? Very, very outlier cases you'll find that. In the US or Europe, there is still more structure because product managers' focus is on something else, right? If you see lots of product managers in Airbnb come from not a lot. Some of them come from a humanities background. Some come from a design background, right? There it's a lot more structure because there is a outside of India there are TPM roles, like technical product manager roles, EM roles. There are project managers, right? So depends on the stage of the company. In India, I feel a product manager does everything, right? Till you get to a stage of company where you're specific tech lead, EM who's going to take care of that. Again, you need to be able to converse with them. So we are not at a stage. I think just the ecosystem is not at a stage where you can come in with any degree and find it easy to break into product. That said, it is not impossible. Same learnings, right? Pick up everything what said so far stays true. What you can do to get a little more comfortable, right? Little more comfortable is make your case, right? There are some books online available that just give you the basics of hey, what how do I converse better, right? Start thinking from that angle. You don't have to build products, right? Just be very, very comfortable. I think that comfort is something that people need to uh, focus on, right? Rather than hey, I don't come from an engineering background, can I still make it to product management? Hey, am I curious enough? Am I prepared enough? Can I be prepared enough to have those conversations? I think that should be the starting point for non-tech folks. Make your case again on your strengths, right? If you're coming in from a non-tech background, do everything what I said earlier. Again, shortlist companies where you think there is no criteria set. um, that could be a good starting point. Or try leveling up, right? If you go to an MBA degree, for example, right? That credential just helps you later on. After that, maybe people don't see what background you come from, right? So I'm trying to tell you like the easier ways, right? I'm not going to tell okay, hey, it is easy, everyone can get into. I'm telling you like a step by step way to at least break it down, right? And post which, yes, everything else also helps, right? There are lots of books available. So do your prep, right? The same prep that applies to someone from a technical background applies here as well. What you can do additionally is see what background you come from. If you come from say a comms slash marketing background, can you get into the growth side of things, right? There's a product management function which is on the growth side. Try getting into growth and then internally try transitioning into product, right? Try that path, which is a little more play to your strengths rather than saying that hey, I don't come from a tech background, can I get into product, right? um, is it something that you can, if you come from like a fashion design background, maybe product design gets a little closer to that. Can that be an entry point and then you get into design plus product? That could be an interesting one, right? So see what focus you come from. Say you come from finance, right? Example. Can you get into the data side of things? Post data, can you get into the business side of things? Business, can you get into product, right? So there are always this step function. Think in step functions. You don't directly have to get into product management. Again, it is hot today, but at the same time, people value people coming with hard skills, right? Your hard skills are not going waste, whichever background you're coming in from. Today, community management is very hot, right? I haven't formally done it, but so many products coming up in the community space. There are so many companies, B2B SaaS companies who are setting up communities, right? And very few people know how to do it properly. So again, you're at an edge because I don't think people with a technical background can think through this more. Like, it is an empathy role. And product management also talks a lot about empathy. That skill set matches. I think the hard skills is something that you can keep picking up parallelly on the side, keep learning, right? There's nothing going to replace. If you go to an interview and say, hey, I don't know all this, but I come from the background, it's not going to help you in any way. So it might take a little longer. Learn these hard skills, but then focus on your strengths. Whichever background you come, start thinking step functions. There might be a role in between you getting into product management. Try getting into that role and then transition internally. Right. So these are two, three different ways that I feel like non-tech folks have been able to do it. Um, yeah, I think I covered most of it.
So that's a great answer. I think usually people just want to take the easy way out, but just getting into a role, familiarizing yourself working then in tandem with other roles can honestly give you that edge that you're looking for. So I think we've talked about how certain specific skills play to your strengths. But say, what are certain general skills that someone must have? Say, if someone wants to become a product manager, is there any specific course that they can take that can help
Course.
them?
I'd love to plug in what we run, but I think there are tons online. To be very fair, I think depends on what you're looking for per se. There are free courses, there are paid courses, there are tons of boot camps that people run today based on
Hmm.
what stage you're at. For early stage folks, tons of opportunity. For later stage folks, I think it's not a very easy ride. So someone imagine who's been there 8-10 years is now figuring out, hey, okay, I think I've done something like product management. It wasn't called product management when I did it, but now I think this is something I can get into. I think that's where there's still lots to be done. So in terms of resources available, I think two very famous books everyone talks about: Cracking the PM Interview and Decode and Conquer. I think these are bibles of sorts. um, this will give you a good standing base, right? Understanding what role you're getting into, what are the kind of rounds, how do you prepare. Start from here, right? Then you'll realize, okay, there are, and you might interview in one or two places, three, four, five places. You'll realize what is the feedback that you're getting. But at least I'd say at least start with that as a level playing field. We have a product academy on the product folks. This is again completely free. So if anyone wants to like check out, we have like stalwarts from the industry coming in, giving at least a fundamental 101 on, hey, what is product management, how can you break in, what all you should do, and like very interesting content there. You can check that out. Post which, if you still think, okay, hey, I still need help, then there are a bunch of boot camps out there. I think they're also doing a fantastic job. Although early stage product roles, if you're trying to break in, it is still fairly open, right? You're competing, there's enough opportunity. The cold start method still works. If you want to get into your fangs of the world, none of this is going to help, right? Just be very clear. um, Again, do the LinkedIn approach, right? So that is on the resources front. I think um, today's world, I think resources are plenty. So just stick to one or two. Start there, or else what people do is hoard 100 different resources and don't get started. So start at least somewhere. Eventually, you'll be like, okay, hey, I know this part. Then you start looking out for others. But at least this is a starting point, I feel, for a lot of people.
Okay. Then again, we talked about resources. So can you mention certain specific, okay, let me take one by one. Certain podcasts that focus on product management and that's really helpful. Do you have something in mind?
To be honest, I'm not too big on podcasts, but I think Lenny Rachitsky runs an amazing podcast. Started recently.
Hmm.
That's something that I've been listening to. Very interesting senior product leaders that he curates from across the globe. Very interesting insights. So you folks should definitely check that out. Um, from the podcast point of view, from for product management, not something that I don't follow anything special. I think I'm just so plugged into the product ecosystem already with the product folk that I don't end up consuming too much outside of it. But yeah, on the podcast front, I think there are a bunch of the business podcasts. So I think product management, you can pick up a lot of skills on the side as well, right? So you think about marketing podcasts, think about startup podcasts. There's acquire.fm, right? Breaks down really interesting business models in the US. I think all of that helps, right? You don't have to be particularly focused to product podcast, but I think Lenny's is fantastic.
Awesome. And newsletters.
Again, first thing that comes to mind is Lenny's newsletter. What I also very much enjoy consuming is Shreyas's Twitter account, right? I think um,
Just coming to Twitter handles. Yeah.
yeah, very nuanced, and if you can maybe subscribe to his super follower list. um, I feel like probably distilled some of the best learnings. And I think when we hosted him as well, it was one of the best sessions for just. I think that we still have a YouTube video out there, which is his way of a product management and how do I break into. This 2 years old, probably has more than 40-50,000 hits, but yeah, it's the best 1 hour that you'll spend, right? So just check that out. In fact, you can skip my entire session and just go listen to that. You'll probably learn a lot more, to be very honest.
Good you said that towards the end.
Yeah, no. Or else we could have ended it in the first 5 minutes. Right? Directing you to the link, please go check it out.
Any more Twitter handles you'd like to recommend?
A lot of people who used to post earlier have stopped posting, to be honest. So all the I see now, like when you go on Google 50 product handles that you should follow, many of these were written 3 4 years back and none of them post anymore. So I think Twitter has changed from that point of view. So if you really want to pick up or you just want to keep following, I think one thing that you can do is follow a lot of these indie builders. They are a little more active, mostly because now they are building in public, etc., etc. It just gives you a different vibe. There is Jackie Bavaro. I think I see her tweet sometime. There is founder of Product Hunt, Ryan. I think fantastic, fantastic guy again. Shreyas Doshi, Lenny Rachitsky again, very, very active. I think these are top two handles. I'd say. Back in the day, I think Kuda founder. He was very, very senior up at YouTube. He isn't active on Twitter, but again, some of the best conversations in terms of the way just so concise and putting his thought across. Right. We hosted him maybe a year and a half ago. Haven't gotten a chance to post that, but still remember. I'd say it is in our top five. So not so many of those guys are active anymore on Twitter. Better place would be to follow a bunch of these indie hackers, bunch of these product builders, because they're the ones trying to promote their early stage products. So you'll get a lot of these insights from the other end of spectrum. I think 3 4 people that I mentioned who I follow. And one thing I just realized that this is I'm sharing only people outside of India, even though I'm plugged into the Indian ecosystem.
Hey, you just mentioned how India is booming. Yeah, you should.
No, but that's a realization. I think lots of Indian folks as well. I think I won't be doing justice if I didn't share that. I think lots of Indian, um, I think maybe they don't have the time to post because I can like think back now. I think Anshumani Rudra, Vikramadhiman, Anuj Rathi, bunch of these senior product leaders, they aren't as active anymore. I don't know what happened, but very very fantastic insights, at least from the conversations we've had. Some of the founders are active. I think you can follow them as well. Many of them come from a product background. Um, Good realization for me also to have, and maybe I should go do my research once
Hmm.
again.
I think books you mentioned too. Any more that you'd like to add to the list?
I'm currently reading Alchemy by. It's not a product management book, but it is. Can you see? Is it
Yes,
visible?
the surprising
Yeah,
product ideas that don't make sense.
yeah. It is called Alchemy by Rory Sutherland. It's not a product management book, but I think I've really enjoyed it. I just started maybe 45 pages into it, so I think it's a really interesting book.
Hmm.
I just finished Elon Musk and Richard Branson's biography before that. Not again product management. Before that was Hit Refresh by Satya Nadella. So I think maybe it's just me that I've been too plugged into. We've hosted, I think, 350, 400 sessions all about product management. So I think haven't really consumed too much.
You need a change in mind. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly.
fair enough. All right.
Also
So let's
reading this book on Coldplay. If any of you guys are Coldplay fans, I think there's a really, really interesting biography.
nice. All right. So next question, I think this will be right down your alley. So you started the product folks community. What is the gap that you noticed and why did you start it? And what is the problem that you had in mind that you were trying to solve with that?
I think way back in the day, it was just about we never thought it would become like India's largest product community by far, right? So idea was, hey, can we just meet interesting people? It was probably just me in the beginning. I was lucky to find very interesting folks to build with, but we used to do only offline events. Idea was, hey, can we meet interesting people? Can they meet each other? Can we invite senior product leaders, learn from them? Um, Back then I think it was just that, right? Just like physical networking slash meeting people, where we realized lots of people who came to us started saying that, hey, um, this course is 2 lakhs, do you think it's worth it, right? So that's why we launched something called learnvic.me. It's a free collection of resources. We were enablers. We like say, we'll just curate the best articles, blogs, videos available online, and we saw like a lot of people consuming it. So then we're like, okay, there is a gap here. Maybe what we're doing is the right thing. 6 months into that, people were like, okay, this is great. We're able to consume, but we're not able to break in. That's when we found a gap. We're like, okay, hey, can we start? And today it's a flagship program. It's called Insojo, right? That's our flagship program. It's a general product management cohort. In fact, Lenny is one of the mentors there. Anuj Rathi is one of the mentors. So very, very senior folks coming in, which is the differentiator. But and InSearcho by the name is also in search of a job. So right on top of Learn PM with me, we launched the first cohort back then that people can also transition. Maybe we have that as a gap, and yeah, today I think that is one thing that is a driving force. Post which, right, I think just started building up from there. Honestly, never knew it will get to where it is today. I think we have a women in product micro community, we have a founders micro community, we have weekly AMAs with senior product leaders, we have monthly teardowns, we have quarterly CBCs like the one that I mentioned to you. Lots of interesting stuff. To think of it now, I think it's grown to beyond something that I would have ever imagined.
Awesome. Okay. One, I think, final question for you. So, tech, as you know, is growing with leaps and bounds. And in that, I think, as developers, you are trying to break in, trying to learn new tech. But as a product manager, how important that is. And you're working again, it's an amalgamation, like you're working with a bunch of different folks. So, how can you constantly keep yourself updated with technology that is evolving so fast?
100% agree with you. I think this is one question I ask a lot of senior folks, right? For junior folks, we mentioned a lot of resources. You break in, there's enough that you can pick up. How do they keep up with it? And it is very important, right? I
100%.
think things get outdated so easily here. And if you want to build something, you need to see what is happening in the market. You need to be updated with the pulse of the market. Um, Web3 came in a jiffy, right? So if someone's like looking to break into product management, there it's a new skill set they need to learn, right? Maybe 5 years from now, blockchain will be very prevalent. Maybe not, right? But then that will force a lot of Web2 product managers to pick up that as a skill set. I think as a product manager, I'll use OnePlus's tagline: "Never settle," right? Because it's impossible, right? The way technology has evolved over the last decade, people who got into product management back then. And weren't able to keep up today are like, okay, hey, like, amazing stuff that I'm seeing some youngsters do. Same way, like I told you, I think at whatever age you are at, and this is what a lot of senior folks told me, at whatever age you are at, it is very easy to get outdated in today's market. Fundamentals still remain the same, and beyond the point, I think if you do have a team, if you're able to connect with them, they'll probably be closer to the ground, they'll be on the pulse, and you absorb from them, right? So, but you just need to have that humility. You need to keep your ego aside. You need to never get to a stage where, like, okay, hey, I know it all, because that's never going to happen, right? The way the world is changing, the way technology is changing, where the problem statements are changing. Um, you're working on social apps, dude. Your youngsters are no more going on Facebook, right? So 5 years back, if you said, okay, Facebook then has Instagram and WhatsApp and is still leading that, but the dynamic has changed. So we're building social apps. There's a certain, lifespan. Then there is a friend of mine who's working with a consumer app today, moving into a SaaS company. Completely new field, right? Even though you're in product management, you need to pick up so many new things. So I think learning never stops, whether you're a senior product manager, whether you're a junior product manager. Different ways that might work for you. Some people enjoy reading tweets, some people enjoy listening to podcasts, some people enjoy reading books, some people enjoy taking courses. Figure what works for you. But along, and it's not easy, right? Along with working a job, you need to keep a track of this. So wherever you get some time, don't get overwhelmed. I think product managers do work very, very long hours. So along with that, don't FOMO in, but at the same time, don't settle. That's the middle ground that you need to find for yourself.
Awesome. I think that was it, and I think you've answered a fair bit of questions. And I think anyone who's interested in product management can honestly watch this. As you, I know you've suggested people, but I think this was also a great session and a lot of pointers for people who want to break in. So thank you, Suhas. Thank you for joining us today. It was great talking to you. We had a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll keep having you back. Hopefully, once this goes up, we'll definitely have you back for more. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Wow, that was a super engaging session. Thank you, Suhas, for joining us today. We hope that you have gained some insight into product management. I know it is a very up and coming, cool role, and a lot of you would be interested in the role. So, hopefully, we've been able to bust some myths and also give you some information. So, if you like the session, do leave us a like, subscribe to Grow Class, and also leave us a comment as to what is some session you'd like to see next. Apart from that, share this with your friends, family, and aspiring product managers or product managers who are maybe looking for more insights into what they do. Because sometimes when you enter a job, it can be very overwhelming, especially as a fresher. So hopefully we've been able to give you some insights. So just do watch the session, share it with your friends, family, anybody, and we will see you again next time.